Supporters of current Tunisian President Kais Saied celebrated in the capital on Sunday night. That's after an exit poll showed him winning the country's election with a landslide of 89.2% of votes. The results sweeping aside his two election rivals, former ally turned critic Zouheir Maghzawi and Ayachi Zamil, who was jailed last month. Official results are not expected until Monday evening. Rival campaigns, however, have rejected the exit poll, saying the real results will be different. Tunisia had been hailed as the only relative success story of the 2011 Arab Spring uprisings for introducing a competitive, though flawed, democracy following decades of autocratic rule. But rights groups say Saied, in power since 2019, has undone those democratic gains while removing institutional and legal checks on his power. He has rejected criticism, saying he is fighting a corrupt elite and traitors and that he will not be a dictator. Senior figures from the biggest parties, which largely oppose Saied, have been imprisoned on various charges over the past year. Those parties have not publicly backed any of the three candidates on Sunday's ballot. Other opponents have also been barred from running. Election participation has dropped significantly since 2011, with turnout at 27.7%, the Election Commission said after the close of polls. Although tourism revenues are on the rise and there has been financial help from European countries worried about migration, state finances remain strained. Shortages of subsidised goods are common, as are outages of power and water.
2 Chinese nationals were killed in an explosion near the international airport of the southern Pakistani city of Karachi on Sunday night. That's according to the Chinese embassy in Pakistan in what it called a terrorist attack. In a statement emailed to journalists, the Baluch Liberation Army claimed responsibility for the explosion, stating it was aimed at a convoy of Chinese engineers using a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. Karachi police did not immediately respond to requests for comment. However, Deputy Inspector General of Police Asfar Mahisar gave this update late Sunday.
According to initial information, an oil tanker caught fire, which spread to several other vehicles, causing collateral damage. We're determining if there was an element of terrorism involved, which we cannot rule out at the moment.
Pakistan broadcaster Geo News reported at least 10 others were injured in the blast. The Chinese embassy condemned the attack, expressing condolences to the victims and their families. The BLA, seeking independence for Baluchistan, has a history of targeting Chinese interests, the group accusing Beijing of aiding in the exploitation of the region.
Israel continued to launch deadly strikes on Gaza on Sunday, coming just after its prime minister hit out at France's president for saying arms sales to Israel for use in the Strip should be stopped.
Shame on them. Is Iran imposing an arms embargo on Hezbollah, on the Houthis, on Hamas, and on its other proxies? Of course not. The axis of terror stands together. But countries who supposedly oppose this terror axis call for an arms embargo on Israel. What a disgrace.
In the video statement released by his office on Saturday, Benjamin Netanyahu also stressed that his country will fight until the battle is won. His response came after French President Emmanuel Macron addressed the escalating conflict at a summit of French-speaking nations.
Nous sommes en solidarité avec la sécurité d'Israël.
Macron repeated his country's solidarity with the security of Israel and expressed sympathy for the families of victims and hostages ahead of a year since Hamas's deadly October 7 attacks. He then called for arms shipments to be used in Gaza to be halted as part of a broader effort to find a political solution to the war that has since shattered the enclave.
Si on appelle un cessez-le-feu,
If we call for a ceasefire, what's consistent is to not provide weapons of war. And I think those who supply them cannot call for a ceasefire every day and continue to supply them.
France is not a major weapons provider for Israel, shipping about $33 million worth of military equipment last year, according to an annual report by its defense ministry. The summit also issued a unanimous statement of solidarity with Lebanon and a call for a halt to fighting. Earlier, Macron told France Inter Radio that his country's priority now is to avoid escalation, saying, quote, "Lebanon cannot become another Gaza." His comments came as Paris looks to play a role in reviving diplomatic efforts. France's foreign minister is currently on a 4-day trip to the Middle East, which will wrap up in Israel on Monday.
Donald Trump says he could put massive new tariffs on vehicles imported from Mexico if he wins November's presidential election.
We'll put a tariff of 200% on if we have to.
That comment came at a Sunday rally in Juneau, Wisconsin, and it marked an escalation in the Republican candidate's protectionist rhetoric.
They're building some of the biggest auto plants, car manufacturing plants anywhere in the world, and then they think they're going to build them cheap and sell them into our country and destroy Michigan.
Trump had previously talked about a 100% duty on cars and trucks made in Mexico with a view to helping the U.S. auto industry. Last year, Mexico exported about 3 million vehicles to the U.S. About half of that number was accounted for by the Detroit 3 automakers. But other foreign firms also have plants there, like this one run by Germany's BMW. Trump previously threatened tariffs on Mexican car exports both as president and as a candidate back in 2016. The move was opposed by automakers who said it would have a severe impact on the industry and lead to higher prices for consumers. Trump and Democratic rival Kamala Harris have been campaigning hard in Wisconsin, as well as Michigan and Pennsylvania, which are all seen as key battleground states.
Haitian Prime Minister Gary Coney embarked on a trip to the United Arab Emirates and Kenya this weekend to seek security assistance in the aftermath of one of the deadliest gang attacks the country has seen in recent years. Grand Griffe gang members stormed through the western Artibonite town of Pont-Sondé on Thursday, killing at least 70 people, including children, and forcing over 6,000 residents to flee. Before his trip, Coney visited attack victims at a nearby hospital, where he said his government would allocate resources to bolster security in Pont-Sondé. The massacre caused widespread shock in a country that has grown accustomed to outbreaks of violence with little police presence. The gangs control the area. They destroyed it, says local resident Rosaline. They shoot so many people. It hurt us a lot. While in the UAE, Coney said he will discuss with his counterpart on how to find regular flows of police to help Haiti's national police combat security. He will then depart the UAE for Nairobi, Kenya.
One
of the aims of this trip is to go to Kenya to talk to President William Ruto about speeding up the deployment of Kenyan troops as quickly as possible to continue supporting the national police force.
Last week, the UN Security Council authorized another year of international security force to help Haitian police fight gangs. The mission has so far made little progress. Promised international support still lags, and nearby nations have deported migrants back home. Only about 400, mostly Kenyan, police officers are on the ground. Thursday's attack is the latest sign of a worsening conflict in Haiti, where armed gangs control most of Port-au-Prince and are expanding to nearby regions.
Florida is bracing for another major hurricane on the heels of Helene. The state was preparing for its largest evacuation since 2017 as Milton, which authorities say strengthened into a hurricane, bore down on western Florida. Milton is now classified as a Category 1 hurricane with sustained winds of 85 miles per hour. Tom Murphy and his family were among Floridians filling up sandbags on Sunday.
Just in terms of preparation, you just got to do what you can early and just get out there, and it is what it is, right?
The U.S. National Hurricane Center projected it will make landfall near the Tampa Bay area on Wednesday. The new hurricane was expected to affect areas already hit hard by Helene, which made landfall further north a little less than 2 weeks ago. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis warned of a potentially higher storm surge and more power outages from Milton compared to Helene, which the state is still reeling from.
This is a 24/7 moment for this debris removal. You have a storm and then have one less than 2 weeks later, two majors back to back. That is not something that is easy. That creates a lot of challenges. And so what we have to do is just do it round the clock until it's no longer safe to do it.
Helene left a wake of destruction across North Carolina, Florida, and much of the South. That storm also killed more than 200 people across 6 states, making it the deadliest named storm to hit the mainland U.S. since Hurricane Katrina killed nearly 1,400 people in 2005. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden has dispatched an additional 500 troops to North Carolina to assist with recovery efforts from Helene, part of a wider federal response that includes $137 million in approved aid, as damages are projected to reach billions.
OK。